chanting the Namaskara, let us remind ourselves about the incredible and immense sacrifice that the Buddha as a Bodhisattva has undertaken to find the Dhamma and find the truth and help us all come out of suffering, come out of the 11 great fires, come out of grief and fear and vexation. And he has so compassionately expounded and explained it to all of us, to our teachers, so that now we also have a chance to come out of suffering, come out of this red race of samsara. In order to do so, let us chant the Namaskara together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, first thing I wanted to say, you have become accustomed to many traditions and rituals over the course of your life that come with a religion, first of all, or that come, we call it a religion for the beginning, and all these rituals have a meaning. And the meaning, understanding the meaning will help you a lot in improving your merit power, you need to understand why we do these things. That will help you to make more progress and make these things more joyfully, do these things more joyfully. When I was in Germany, most of my life, I never did many things like that. And now I'm doing it, but now I can see the meaning behind, and for the meaning, it helps me a lot. So I think sometimes it's good to start explaining a little bit as according to as much as I understand about rituals like these, some of the things, and sometimes it might be a revision to you, sometimes it might be new for you as well, because in these rituals or in these things like observing 5 precepts, there's always a meaning, conventional meaning, and there's also a deeper meaning. Okay? So I wanted to start a few minutes and discuss about the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts, you know the meaning, the traditional meanings, right? For example, you should not kill any living beings, you should not steal, you should not engage in sexual misconduct or sensual misconduct, you should not lie, and you should not intoxicate yourself. Now, actually, if you really want to observe 5 precepts in a deeper level, then I can call you an Arahant. Only an Arahant can observe these 5 precepts honestly, truly. That means with its deeper meaning. For example, conventionally, it is not so hard to observe 5 precepts. For example, you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't lie, you shouldn't steal, no sensual or sexual misconduct, and you shouldn't use drugs or alcohol. That's the conventional meaning. So, as a cow, usually it's also observing the 5 precepts the whole life. It doesn't even have to be reminded. It just does, right? It's not hard. But a cow never attains Nibbāna, right? So if following the 5 precepts according to their conventional meaning is enough to become an Arahant or to attain Nibbāna, then it will never happen. It can't happen because otherwise a cow should also attain Nibbāna. But that's not what it is, right? It's a good start, of course. It's good even to do that. So if that's what it means to you at this moment, I don't really know, but if that's what it means to you, then it's good also. So that's what it is. And even then we can also see there's a difference between observing 5 precepts as opposed to, let's say, following 10 commandments or following certain rules. Because these are meant as training rules, not as commandments. So I hope you can see the difference. Commandments are things like, you shall not do this, you shall not do this. And if you do, then you are a sinner, you are bad. And that means you have loaded yourself up with some kind of a badness and shamefulness, right? So then you are a sinner and you have to repent. So in this idea, we always work with a lot of guilt, right? So it's about making somebody good by punishing, right? So by imposing rules. Now, we are always used to observe rules in society, and even when we are growing up with our parents, we do observe these rules. But why do we usually observe these rules? When our parents give us rules, as an example, when my parents gave me rules, you should not play more than 1 hour of computer every day. I did it. Because they were the ones who had power over me. They were there, and if I didn't do it, then they would say, okay, now no pocket money for the week, no money for this month. We will cut your bones, we will cut this and that. Right? So there was always a fear. If I don't do this, I'll get punished by them, right? And out of fear, I didn't do. I followed the rules because out of fear to be punished, right? Not because of the goodness of my heart and because I was just a good person and so on, just because I don't want to get punished, right? So this is how usually rules work. Even in society, honestly speaking, every rule, you need police, you need somebody to enforce that, right? Enforcement officers, like crossing the road by red. There's always someone who has to, at least here and there, has to drive around the city. I mean, I don't know whether it happens in here, but in Germany that happens. There's policemen who are just driving around, checking whether people break the rules, so that people see, there's someone checking that. Because if people would think, it's just a rule, but nobody's enforcing that, then people would start doing whatever they like to do, right? So these rules feel like they oppress us. We are forced to follow them. So this is rules how we used to know them. And I'm saying that these 5 precepts are not meant like that. Right? They are not meant as, if you don't follow them, now you will be punished. So that's not to say that punishment won't happen, because according to the law of what we give is what we get. If we give something, we can expect a certain like-minded result. We don't know when it will happen. Maybe in this life, maybe not. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 1 year, maybe in 10 years. That's how the nature works. But in all of this, what we give is what we get. There's not such thing called sinners and good people and bad people. That's another thing we have to understand. Right? So just because you have done something bad, don't think that now you're a bad person and now you have done something bad, and this guiltiness of something bad that we have done is not something, in Buddhism, in this philosophy, is not something that brings you, it's not the most holy thing. It is not, if there's something bad that we have done and you regret that, then that's good. So you can forgive, you can excuse if there's a person and you did something bad to him, you can go and say sorry. That's definitely a good thing to do. And if he's no longer there, you can say mentally sorry for yourself, and you can ask for forgiveness. That is good. But then there's no point in thinking about the past forever and ever, and thinking about what the bad things you have done and how bad you are and things like that. There's no point in doing that. Because the past is the past, and it will only occupy your mind thinking about the past, and you will not have the energy to think about how you can improve and what you can learn from that past, right? So the past is something for us to learn, not something for us to live in. When we learn, we can improve, and that means we need to learn the lesson that the past has given us about how we have to change, how we have to act in a better way, and we all do mistakes, and we accept it. We accept that we have done a mistake, and that's it, right? So in this philosophy, it's not about what we have done and feeling bad about these things. It's always about training rules. Training rules means try to follow certain moral behaviors, and at the beginning it's a training, so that means it's not natural to us, right? Observing 5 precepts, maybe the conventional 5 precepts are not so difficult to observe for most of us. In most situations in life, they are not that difficult to observe. Still, sometimes yes, maybe, but that's one thing. But if you go deeper to the deeper level, for example, even the first precept, Anatipata Veramani, it's not just hurting somebody physically. It could be hurting somebody verbally. It's not just killing, but you can extend it to hurting in general. Hurting can be something you do by words, something you do even by your mind. That means, actually, only a person who has no more aversion or dvesha can be called a person who is not hurting anyone completely. Because although we don't normally go out and hurt somebody physically, or let alone kill someone physically, normally most of us don't do it. In our mind, don't we easily get angry about things that others do, and we get upset about them, and so in our mind at that moment we have all sorts of things in our mind. We have all sorts of wishes that might have, this should happen to this person, this should happen to this person. So we wish harm to others, in our mind at least, although we might not want it to happen actually, but for a moment we wish it. So of course this is also a karma, although it's not as strong as the karma that we do when we act physically, right? So karma can be done in 3 ways. You can do it by virtue of your body, speech, and mind as well, right? Of course, it's always starting in the mind, right? Every good intention, every action always starts in the mind, right? No one just goes into a bank and is robbing a bank because for no reason. It starts with planning. Once you plan what to do, you speak about it, you make plans, you talk, at least you talk to yourself, right? Not just, you think about how to do it, where to go, what to do, what to know about, and then you execute it. That's how we do everything in life. Even when you wanted to become an engineer, doctor, teacher, mother, father, husband, wife, that's also a karma, that's also an action that you do to become someone. You also do all these 3 things, right? You do mana karma, vachi karma, and we can say. So, training rules, the 5 precepts are training rules. That means, no, Panatipada actually means, the deeper meaning means, you have no ill will in whatever way towards anyone. So that means you need to be free of dvesha, which means free of any aversive, hateful speech or even thoughts against anyone. This is the deeper level that I understand from Panatipada. So can you see, is that easy to do? Totally not easy to do, right? Totally not easy to do. And only Arahant can do that. Why? Because he has no more dvesha. He has no more dvesha. Why? Because he has nothing that he wants. Right? Because why does dvesha happen? Why do we feel hatred or ill will, negativity against others? Why does it happen? Because there's something that we want and we don't get it, right? For example, if the children are playing, if their children are not going to sleep on time, sometimes parents get angry. So then what does the parent want at that moment? The father, the mother. He wants the child to go to sleep, right? That doesn't happen. Father or mother gets offended. Right? Children wants to watch TV another half an hour. But father or mother says, no, it's finished. So then the child gets sad or angry, upset. Why does that happen? Because I want to watch TV, but I can't. Right? He or she does not allow me to do that. Right? Would a child get angry without a wanting? Can you get angry without a wanting? For example, you are watching TV, but you don't want to watch TV. That means, now when we are talking about wanting, there are 3 things. I want to, because the language sometimes doesn't make it clear. I just want to explain it. There's wanting to watch TV, and then there is not wanting to watch TV, but there's 2 kinds of not wanting to watch TV. One is wanting not to watch TV. That's also a wanting, right? So for example, you're sitting in front of the TV and the TV is off. Maybe you're sitting on the couch. You don't want to watch TV. You just want to sit at the sofa, and then somebody comes and turns it on. And then you say, no, keep this thing off. I don't want to watch. I want just to sit here and think. So that's also wanting, right? So what is it that we want? We don't want to watch TV, or we want to sit here and think, or talk, or something like that. So this is also a wanting. So this is the wanting not for something to happen. And then there's a third thing, which is you neither want to watch nor you want not to watch. Does it make sense? I give you a simple example. Can you see this pen? Do you want to see it? Do you have a problem to see it? So that means there's no wanting to see, nor is there the wanting not to see. The wanting not to see would mean when you see this, you feel angry, or you feel upset, or you say, can you please remove this, Swaminathan? This is not something I want to see. This is ugly. This disturbs me. Now you have a wanting, right? A wanting to not see it. Right? So there are 3 kinds of things. Some people want to see this, and if I show it to them, then what will they feel? Happy. Some people don't want to see this, as in they want not to see this. So they want something, what is it? Not to see this, right? So if I show it to them, what will happen with them? Angry. And then there are some people that don't have a wanting for this. Then what will happen if I show it to them? Nothing, right? In their mind, nothing will happen. I mean, they will see it, but they will not feel happy. And if I remove it, what will happen? They will not feel sad. Right? So these are three kinds of relationships we can have to this planet. Or you can have to anything in this world. Right? Either you want it, or you want not to have it, or you have no wanting. So, what I was talking about was aversion. What is aversion? When we are upset, when we are sad, when we get angry, when we have some negative feelings towards something that's happening, we call it aversion. When does it happen? When does it happen? When there's something that we want, but we can't have it. Okay. So how can we be free of anger then? Can you say, okay, now I'm going to try really hard not to get angry and someday I will be free from that? No, right? Because there are such things called anger management classes. Anger management classes, so what are the things people propose to you to do to get rid of anger? Counting from 1 to 10, right? Going for a walk in the park, listening to music, meditation, watching a movie, or divorcing the husband, different kind of things, right? So these are always, why would we call them management? So, anger management. Now what is a manager? A manager is someone who has something and he needs to manage it, right? So, a finance manager is somebody who has to manage finances, right? So, can you call somebody a manager who has nothing to manage? Like, would you call yourself a horse manager if you don't have a horse? No, right? So in that sense, managing is something we have to do once the problem has arisen. So once you're angry, now you have some options. What are the options? You could go and meditate. You can go and run. You can go and meet your children, or listen to music, or sleep, or read a book, or count to 10. These are management techniques. What the Buddha tried to do was not giving us a management technique. So I'm not here to give you a tool that you can use so that whenever you get angry, you can get out of anger. Right? I think you have enough of these options. Right? You have some solutions, and you have been doing that all your lives. Right? What are the things you have done last time that you got angry? For example, when the children don't do their homeworks. Now, isn't there something we can do to come? How do we feel about that? Angry. Sometimes we will get angry about that. So then, what do we do so that we don't feel angry anymore? Sometimes we go and punish the child. Sometimes we have a solution. So even if people go on each other's throats and they harm each other, they hurt each other physically, they stab each other or they punch each other, don't they do that to manage their anger? Is that not an anger management class they have subscribed to? Right? They have learned, if you get angry, here's what you can do. Go and punch the other person. I mean, does it not help? Honestly, it helps, right? Punching someone when you're angry, does it not help in that moment? Of course, it helps. Usually after that you feel relaxed. If you can scream at someone, it feels really good, because after that screaming, you are relaxed. So I saw some documentary the other day, it was called Spirituality. Sometimes maybe 50 years ago, there were some classes where people would come together and scream at each other until they're feeling good. So this was the spiritual teaching of that kind of group. So what did they do? Actually what happened in their lives was they were living all their lives and things were happening and there were so many things which upset them. Every day things happen, right? I mean, it happens to all of us. Maybe somebody's parking in front of us, maybe somebody's damaging our car, maybe we want to go to the supermarket and then we want to buy this kind of product, maybe milk or I don't know, whatever, and then it's not there. We want to stand in the queue for the petrol and it's taking too long. So all of these things, they always upset us, and we collect these kind of angers, and they get more and more and more until there comes a point when we feel like the barrel is full, right? And then we all meet together, and let's come and meet together, and let's scream at each other, and then we're good, right? So that's what people do. That's a management technique. So it is a very bad management technique, if I may say so. At least when it comes to managing your anger, if you manage your anger and in doing so you hurt others, that's a very bad management technique, right? So if you are angry and what you choose to do to come out of anger is to hurt someone, shout at someone, then that's what we call a bad management technique. Because now you gain happiness for yourself for a moment on the cost of someone else's happiness. In other words, that happiness that you gain does not last very long, and you get problems with the others. You have given something bad, you can expect to get more back in return, right? So that's why coming out of a problem in this way doesn't really give you long-lasting peace. You can see this in the world these days when conflicts are there between countries and when these countries fight each other. I mean, every time you retaliate, you just provoke more anger, more hatred in the other party, and soon enough this party will come up with another plan to hurt you again. So therefore you always get back more and more problems when you retaliate, right? So then there's a good way to manage your anger. How to do that? How do we manage our anger better? We had some examples. Meditation, right? We can think about the good qualities of the other person. It's also another way. You can see your faults, or you can see, go for a walk, distract your mind, do something else. These are management techniques which are good, because usually you don't hurt others. Sometimes you even improve yourself. You want to improve yourself, you want to change yourself, and these are called good management techniques. And then there's what we call the technique of the Buddha. The technique of the Buddha is not a management technique. Technique of the Buddha is anger eradication class. anger eradication class is not something that you do when anger comes to you. I mean, do you get angry sometimes? Just to check, so that I'm not alone. No, I used to get angry, and I still do, but it tends to be less and less, especially once you understand what anger really is and how it happens, right? Because then you can apply this anger eradication method to your life. So anger eradication means you understand what are the causes of anger and you remove the causes. Okay? Because anger doesn't happen without a reason. Anger happens when there's certain reasons, when there are certain causes. Right? Let's think about this example. I'll give you an example, and we can understand what are the reasons and how to come out of this, okay? So to finish the point about the precepts, and then we'll start with this, I just gave you an example. Anatipata, Veramani, Sikkhapadam, Samadhyami actually is something very deep. And to follow it, ultimately, you have to eradicate anger and eradicate attachment. Similarly, all the other precepts have the same depth, right? So, of course, the last precept not just means you don't use drugs or you don't drink alcohol. I mean, that is good, definitely good, but intoxicating your mind is something much more. I mean, intoxication is not just actually intoxicating your body, it's about intoxicating your mind. And intoxicating your mind is something we do by we can say ego, yes, so creating ego. We'll talk about this later. Seeing, yes, Madam, we said seeing, of course. Through seeing, it happens. I mean, the mind creates it with the help of seeing and hearing and so on. Okay. Let's talk about anger. So I hope by the end of this talk you will understand why anger happens and how to come out of this problem. Coming out of this problem of anger not for a day, actually coming out of it for good. For good. Okay. For good means if you apply this method, it has to be applied preventively, right? So these days, this week, I'm spending time in our meditation center. There's no reason to be angry there. I mean, there's nothing that disturbs us. But what we have time to do there is, we have time to work on our mind so that we can make sure that next time life happens to us, for example, people come to us and they want things from us, and the busyness of things in our monastery, sometimes it can be really busy, and when there are many things to do, that in a situation when normally you get angry, now you don't get angry anymore, right? So therefore, right now is a very good time for all of us together to work on our mind so that next time life happens to you, you don't get angry. This is the preventive method. Preventive method. Because it's like this. Your mind at this moment is like if I take some oil and I pour it on to you, like I take some oil and I shower with you with oil, right? Now, you are like you are explosive. Now you are kind of explosive, you are a danger. Are you burning right now? If I shower you with oil, are you burning? No, you're not burning. But can you not start burning very easily? Yes. All you need is a matchstick. And once I put that matchstick next to you, you start to be a flame. Right? So we need to realize our mind at this moment is like, it's not burning necessarily, it is explosive. Because there is some explosive material in our mind, right? Similarly, just like oil, when you pour it onto your body, is giving you the potential to burn. Similarly, ignorance and attachment in our mind create a potential for us to get angry, right? So that means our mind has some oil, and by contemplating, by understanding, by investigating about the Dhamma, we can get rid of this. So what we are doing right now is not extinguishing a fire. What is that? Anger management is when there's a fire and you extinguish that. What is anger eradication? It means before you burn, you rub your body of this oil that you have on your body, and now you can't burn anymore. Does that make sense? Good. So let's think about it. So for you to burning is a process that happens, right? Fire, does it make sense? Fire is a process that happens when certain causes come together. What are the causes? Oil. Let's take this example. When you have oil on your body, that's one cause, right? Burning material. But just because your body is soaked in oil, do you burn? No. For that to happen, you need to add some other causes. What is the other thing you need to add? A matchstick. A matchstick, or not actually a matchstick, some sort of heat. And then, of course, there's also something in the environment here. All of this happens in the environment of oxygen. Right? Similarly, these are the three causes that you need to bring together for a fire to happen. Is that too complicated? I hope that's clear, okay? Otherwise I can repeat, there's no problem in doing so as well. Now similarly, what about anger? Let's take an example. The child is sitting in front of the TV and watching TV. That's where we left off earlier, where I gave you these three wantings, these three examples. So when a child is sitting in front of the TV and that child wants to watch TV, he likes the program and he wants to watch it. So now he has an expectation, right? Good. What if the mother or the father comes and turns off the TV? What will the child feel? Anger. What if the child sits in front of the TV and is watching the TV, but he doesn't want to watch it? In other words, whether the TV is on or not doesn't really matter. Now, if the mother would come and turn off the TV, what would the child feel? Nothing, right? Nothing. So, in other words, turning off the TV, is that the reason why the child gets angry? Can you say that you turn off the TV, and that's why, and you made me angry because you turned off the TV. If a child were to say that, would it be true? No. Turning off the TV can't make somebody angry. This is just something that happened. Does it make sense? Turning on the TV, turning off the TV is something that happens, but this is not the reason why people get angry. If you want to watch TV and somebody turns off the TV, right? So what you want does not happen, then you get angry. Then angriness happens. Right? So, the child. The child gets angry. What are the causes for that? Why does it happen? What are the causes that we can see? There's an expectation. So sometimes when I say expectations, I also want to use another word, which is wanting. Wanting? Same. The child wants to watch TV. But just because he wants to watch, is that enough to be angry? No, because as long as it happens, everything is good. But then there's a trigger. There's a trigger, there's an event. So these are at least two causes which both have to come together for anger to happen. Right? Okay. So we need to understand, if you want to come out of anger, yes, you can try to be a good person, try to help others, try to not shout to others. These are all the good things that you can do, and I'm already sure you're doing a lot of these things. Right? This is really good. But you can't stop feeling angry here and there. Sometimes it will happen to you. Right? You need to understand one thing. When you get angry, it tells you a lot about your problem, about where your problem are, because you have to see the problem is actually you're wanting. There's something that you want. There's something that your mind tries to maintain. Right? So if this child, when I was a teenager, and these things happened when my parents turned off the TV, I never thought the problem was with me. Honestly, I always thought my parents are disturbing me, they annoy me. Why are they doing that to me? Right? So I always tried to fight against my parents. Isn't that something we all do? If you have seen your children, maybe they will do the same. Most of us, we always try to fight and change the outside experiences. So if our parents don't allow us to watch TV, we go to see TV with our friends in the neighbor's house. Or we watch TV on the internet, or we take a phone. So we find a way, we find another way to get what we want, right? So when my parents tried to stop me from playing computer games, I found a way to play it anyways. That's how I did, because that's the only thing I knew. It's the only thing I knew when I was a teenager. And I'm sure most of your children, if they haven't understood the Dhamma, they will do exactly the same. And I have to say, I'm so sorry for them. I'm so sorry. Because the solution that they are trying, and actually the thing is, honest truth is, adults, we are not better than them. We are not better. We are like children. In our mind, we are very immature the way we solve our problems. Although we have a grown-up body, and although we have a PhD, maybe more than one PhD, and we have experienced life a lot, don't ever think that just because of that people are more mature in handling their anger problems. Actually, in terms of this, we never grow up. We can say that unless we have understood the Dhamma, we are very immature. Although we have gained a lot of knowledge, when it comes to handling our feelings, we haven't learned anything. We are very, very helpless and immature in the way we handle our feelings. We don't know any other solution other than to fight against the outside world. I mean, that's what you see all over the world, and even you will do the same in your relationships, when it comes to when you are with your family, when you're at work. I am very sure, whether you can see it like that or not, in subtle ways or in big ways, you are fighting with all of these things. Because there's always something that they do that you don't like, and then you fight them. You try to gain something from them. In other words, you want to have it your way. Right? That's how it happens. Now, if we can find a way, so before we think about finding a way out of this, we have to clearly understand. For example, let's take your children. Do you really want them to do this for the rest of their lives? Do you want them, whenever they are angry, to fight with the world? Do you think that they are ever going to find happiness and peace in their lives? In this way? It's not going to happen. Right? Today they fight with you. In 20 years they fight with their wife or their husband. And then with their children, and with their grandchildren as well, and if they're lucky with their grandchildren, but then they will not find a time in their lives when they can actually settle their quarrels. That's why the Buddha in the Dhammapada stanzas, he said, I can't remember the exact Pali words, but I remember the stanza something like, in a world where everyone is quarreling, we, as the Mahasangha, we live and we have no quarrels with anyone, right? So, in the Buddha's time, and in today's time, the world and the society is full of quarrels. Because unless you have understood how to calm your mind, you have no choice but to feel angry. And now you don't know any other solution but to fight with someone. And it is an endless struggle. So I fought with my parents, and then I kept fighting with other people in my university times. Partners, sisters, still parents. It never changes. By the way, I'm not here to say that my relationship with them is not very good. Of course, it is very good, and I love them a lot, and we don't have any problem. But these are just normal things, nothing special. Always part of life. So, how do we get rid of anger? We have to cease expectations. This is something you can do right now. This is something you don't have to wait until you get angry when somebody triggers you. That's too late. That's why right now is a very important time to work on your mind. Because your mind is full of this. Your mind is full of expectations all the time. Unless you do something about that, how can you ever find peace? How will you ever be happy? How can you ever be happy? Not just in this life, but because of these expectations, you are guaranteed to get another one. you are guaranteed to live another life. Because when the mind dies with expectations, then the present will come right to you. Right then and there you will get another chance to live a life where you will run around like a maniac. I'm sorry to say this, but isn't this the truth? Restlessly, we run around like maniacs, trying to fulfill this unfulfillable thing in our heart, and we die and we have to do the same again. If at least we could rest at that time, wouldn't that be great? If at least when you die, I think the struggle is over and you could say, no, at least I don't have to run around like a maniac anymore. That's what we wish people when we see them, when we bid our farewell to them. We say, rest in peace, right? So we wish them, yes, you have not been able to rest in your life, you have always run around, but at least may you rest now. But the reality is, if you don't learn to rest in peace while you are still alive, you will not be able to rest when you're dead also. You will be same restless then as you are today. Right? So this is the biggest irony when it comes to people committing suicide. Because people who want to commit suicide feel something is wrong with them. Normally that's what happens, right? Something is so wrong with them, they can't no longer bear it anymore. And they have tried a lot of other things, and nothing has worked. So they feel this big emptiness inside of them, and they don't know how to get out of this. So what's the only idea that they have in their mind? Simply not to live. Because the idea is, if I'm dead, at least I don't feel it anymore, so I can be free from this. The problem is, you can get rid of this body, but your mind, if it dies with wanting, will get another body. Somehow, another life will happen. And then the same thing will keep going on. So, only when you think that you are this body and then that's it, you would do something like that. Otherwise, you will realize, oh my God, the problem has only gotten worse. Because now the mind, if it dies in vexation, when people who want to commit suicide, they are full of vexation, full of wanting actually. Yeah. Full of wanting, and when they die, of course, this wanting is still there. And when the wanting is still there, their life will continue, or a new life will start, whatever you want to see, it doesn't matter. And then their mind is still as oily as it was ever before. So therefore this emptiness that they feel will still happen within them. All this unsatisfaction, maybe depressions. Trust me, when somebody is depressed, if he kills himself, the depression is not cured then, it's still there. So depression is not something that lasts for a lifetime, it can last over more than one lifetime. This is the most crazy, I don't know how to explain, but this is the most horrific problem about depressions. These mental things, we can't even see the end of it, because these things can go beyond even this life. Because the way you think today, if you don't learn how to change your way of thinking today, are you going to think any other once you are in another life? Do you think that will happen automatically? From somehow, somewhere, or from the heavens, from somewhere, somebody will give you this superpower that now you start thinking in a different way? If today your habit is to see negative things in people, do you think you will stop doing that when you get another life? Come on. That's not going to happen. right? That's why these things are, we can't rest. I mean, there's no point in hoping for such things, right? So, only solution is you need to change the way you think. Whether you learn it by yourself or whether you learn it with the help of someone else, unless you do that, nothing's going to get fixed, ultimately. Right? That's the thing. And that's what the Buddha gave us. He gave us instructions how to change our way of thinking. Right? Now why? So how to get rid of anger then? And by the way, getting rid of anger is also, if you understand how to get rid of anger, you can also get rid of depression as well. Because these are actually the same, very similar problems. So, if ever you know anyone who has a depression, or who feels depressed sometimes, right? Because usually they are this kind of, it's not 1 and 0. Normally what happens, I mean, we all have a depressed day. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But if this becomes more and more and more, now we can call it a depression. I don't know whether these things are typical in Sri Lanka, but I know in Germany these things are very common. Right? Even among very successful people, very educated people that my friends, when we went to university, when we had a degree, we had studied the different subjects, we were successful in society. But when you talk with people, and when they are open to you, you get to know how they feel inside them. On the street, everyone looks really good. Everyone looks really, nice dress, and nice facade. But inside is another story. It's a totally different story, right? So, depression is something people look for answers in all kind of things. Some people go to the doctor. Some people take medicine. I mean, psychiatry, medicine for the body, for example, pills, tablets. These things people take because they think they can get rid of depression. That's especially something that happens in my culture, because people always believe that I am this body. So whatever I feel I feel this because of the genes, because of my hormones. This is all there is. Right? My hormones determine how I feel. So what I have to do is change my hormones to get out of my feelings. Right? It might work temporarily, but this is also not a solution. Right? Because the problems always happen in the mind. The problems always happen in the mind because of expectations. Unless you get rid of expectations, you will keep suffering. So, how to get rid of expectations? Getting rid of expectation means you need to understand why expectations happen. Expectations happen, in this case, the child. The child wants to watch TV. Why does the child want to watch TV? Because the child believes watching TV gives me happiness. Right? Not watching TV gives me suffering. Watching TV gives me happiness. Therefore, I want to watch TV. That's the view the child has. What you need to explain to the child is, and this is not true. This is like a illusion. happiness cannot be found in a TV, happiness cannot be found in a computer game, happiness cannot be found in a smartphone, or in all sorts of kind of things that people believe that. What the child has to understand, what you need to explain to the child is, what is this thing that it's feeling? What is this pleasure that we are feeling when we are watching TV? Right? Because the child is watching TV and it's feeling pleasure, feeling happy. But the only problem is with how it interprets this feeling of pleasure. Right? Pleasure is something that we misinterpret. And this is the only problem that exists. Happiness that you experience in your life is something that you constantly misinterpret. And that's where your problems start. And that's why you have all the problems in your life. Every single problem, every single mental problem you have in your life is because you misinterpret actually happiness in your life. Right? That's where we have to correct. That's where we have to understand what is it that we feel and how does it work, right? We have talked about this before, but now I'm giving you a practical example again, another. So, let's come back to this topic of happiness. Happiness is something we feel every day. We experience many things and we feel happy. Teenagers, when they watch TV, when they watch the phone, when they scroll through the phone, feel happiness. Otherwise they wouldn't do it, right? They wouldn't scroll on their phone if it wouldn't make them happy. They wouldn't try to make a nice beautiful picture and get a lot of likes on Facebook, or I don't think Facebook is used anymore, maybe Instagram or something, and it doesn't matter. They wouldn't try to pose in front of the camera in a really nice way, if not maybe for the comments that come, or the number of likes, because that gives them a feeling of happiness, of course. Right? So, as long as people believe that it is something that gives them happiness, you cannot remove them from these devices. So maybe if you're a teacher or if you're a parent, again, I want to tell you, without Dhamma, without understanding your mind, or first you need to understand your mind. If you don't understand your mind, you cannot help your children as well. And all you can really do, without Dhamma, all you can really do is you can show your children what are the different ways that when the vexation comes to you, you can release your vexation. In other words, when you have a problem, you can find a temporary solution, right? So education, earning money, building houses, traveling to different countries, these are different solutions to the wrong problem. In other words, if your children feel unhappy or feel this vexation, now you can give them all these answers, and that will give them a moment of release of vexation. But that's not a solution to their actual problem. So they will do all these things, but they'll keep burning from this fire of vexation their whole life, right? So whether they are living in Sri Lanka or whether they're living in another country, it doesn't matter. In the other country, there are people also burning from within, and they have to keep doing and doing and doing, because whatever they try to do is always trying to import happiness. Because we feel happiness exists all around us. when you see something in the TV, when you see something on the phone, there are so many things that make you feel good, and they suggest to you, happiness is here, take some more of me, take some more of this. Then you will be able to experience it, right? When you smell something nice, when you walk around the street, you smell something nice and you feel, that's something, oh yes, I should have more of this. But actually, when you eat something, when you import something, when you take something in, you have never ever taken happiness in. You have never experienced happiness. You have never had happiness. Although it might feel to you that you have done so, you have never experienced actually happiness, right? Because this is all something that our own mind, it just, it's cooking it up, right? Just like I said once before. It's like the outside world gives you something which is grey and it has no colors, and now you paint the colors and then you say, this world is so colorful. Right? It's your own doing. It's your mind's doing. Your mind creates happiness, but now you feel that happiness comes from the outside world. Right? This is something that our mind does. I'll give you another example. A very simple example. Something that I have experienced years ago. Or something that, So, if you have never smoked, and you are surrounded by somebody who smokes, and you take in this smell, how does it smell? It smells really not really good. You don't get attracted to smoking by smelling cigarette smell. No one feels appealed, no one feels attracted toward that kind of thing, right? But once you start doing it yourself for a while, the same smell, now that you smell it again, now you're sitting next to somebody and he smokes, and the same smoke now you smell, but somehow you feel now attracted to that, right? So why? It's because your mind is adding a kind of a nostalgic layer on top of that thing, right? Some kind of nostalgia, right? And that's something you like. The story around, the story you have added to this. That's why what happens. That's why when you live in a certain city for a while, at the beginning when you live in this city, everything is just a building or normal. But once you come back to that city again after a few years and you see the same buildings again, because you have been there before, you're not only seeing the buildings, but you're seeing your own personal story and everything you have experienced here, and that's what you like in that city. Something like that. Or when people fall in love, isn't there what happens in these situations? At the beginning, not everything we like about this person makes us feel good. Maybe some of the things we don't feel really good, but actually over time our vision changes. Like when you meet somebody for a few times, over and over again, now then that you see this person, things which were not really interesting to you at the beginning, now you start liking. So our mind, so to say, distorts what we see. Right? All these are, take the example of a hair of a woman or something like that. If a boy it's just a hair, but if the whole story of this, if that smell is something connected to a lot of experiences and hopes in his mind, it becomes really, really precious to this boy. This is all mentally created. This is something the mind of this boy fabricates. Right? So, now, when we come back to this anger, the boy, the child that watches TV experiences happiness. What is this happiness that he experiences? It's nothing more than release of vexation. Right? Nothing more than release of vexation. There was a wanting in his mind, and he wants to watch TV. He wanted to see something. There was some kind of a wanting. With that wanting, the child, this mind is now watching TV. And when the mind finds what it is looking for, it releases the mind of the vexation, or the vexation is released. That process, when it happens in our mind, feels good. The release of vexation is something that feels good. And it is a how to explain? It's a vicious cycle. Because once you don't understand what pleasure really is, now your not understanding will create this illusion. So as soon as you believe happiness is there in the world, you want something of that. When you want it, now you're looking for it. And when you get what we are looking for, you release of the pressure that you have, or that created in your own mind. There was nothing there. But when our mind starts looking, it feels this vexation, right? So you need to understand that this is what happens, that actually TV has nothing. TV has nothing, it's just an experience. Everything in this world you see, everything you have ever experienced are just events. Events which can't give you suffering and can't give you happiness. Even something such as the touch of a man or the touch of a woman. Normally, don't people always feel that these are very, very pleasant experiences? Isn't this something that people look forward to experience a lot? Of course. I mean, I'm talking just about a simple touch, right? What if I were to tell you that the happiness that you experience when something happens like this is nothing comes from the outside world, nothing whatsoever. It's all to do with the story that our mind creates. Right? For example, my teacher always gives this example. If there's happiness in holding someone's hand, shouldn't the person who that hand belongs to, I mean, if there's happiness in this hand, shouldn't I be happy being able to touch my own hand? Shouldn't I hold my own hand and be happy in this way? But I would never hold my hand, but there might be other people who would like to hold this hand. So, would you hold your own hand, and does it make you happy to hold your own hand? So then if people come and want to hold yours, what do you think? Will there be happiness in that hand that you can give to that person? Can you give happiness to someone? So if somebody comes to you and says, please, I want to be with you because you can make me happy, then where's that happiness that you can give? Because if you have it, why are you not happy yet? Right? So this is why relationships, I'm sorry to say this, actually never work. Why do they not work? Because there's one person, he's not happy, but he believes that happiness is in the other person. And the other person is also not happy and believes that happiness is in the other person. But both are, but first of all, there's nothing in each of them that you can find. That's why it's a continuously, people are looking for happiness and looking for happiness and looking for happiness, but it never happens, right? Because all we really experience is just the release of vexation. Otherwise, if there's happiness in this person, then we should say, okay, now I found it, thank you, right? If there's happiness in me, in seeing me, everyone who has seen me should walk away and say, okay, now thank you very much, now I'm happy and I don't need to do anything more. But I don't think anyone who saw me, even my mother, my father, who have seen me for many, many years, do you think that now they're done looking for happiness? No, they're still looking for happiness. They still want to see more of me, right? So maybe you have had children because you wanted to be happy. Now, has that plan worked out exactly? I mean, I'm not saying that there's a problem with having children, but if it's for happiness, is there happiness in the child? Where's that happiness? And actually that child should be happy. But if he's looking for somewhere else, then it can't be. And if we never have enough, how is that? We can never have enough of it. And other people don't feel the same, right? So what we feel as happiness, another person doesn't feel as happiness. So that's why the only thing you experience is release of vexation. Even when a mother gives birth to a child, that is a very happy moment, I guess, for many people. Why? What's the experience? Well, you're just relieved of a lot of vexation. Two kinds of vexation: physical and mental. Physical vexation, why? Because now, well, if you have a lot of pain, physical pain, I'm saying, if you come out of this, that's good. It's like, for example, you carry 20 kilograms of cement on your shoulders, and you carry that for 2 kilometers, and once you drop that, what will happen? How will you feel? You'll feel really good. Why? Well, because there was a burden, there was something that you were carrying, and now you can get out of this physically, right? And of course, because I imagine, I have not experienced it, but I imagine when you give birth to a child, you have to go through pain. That's not fun. That experience is not fun, but once that stops, it gives, that's the release of vexation, physical part. And mental, you wanted something, or the mind wanted something. It wanted a child. I mean, this wanting was there maybe for many years, right? From the day that there was a view that there was a wanting for a child in the mind, mentally there was a pain, mentally there was a wanting. And when finally we get a child, or that person gets a child, what it wanted, it got. So then also that creates a release of vexation. That's why it's fun. That's why it feels good, right? That's why it feels good. But actually, nothing came from the object to you. Nothing came. So that's what we need to understand. Because when you understand this, one thing will happen. Which of these experiences is better, watching TV or not watching TV? They are the same. They are both the same. The only reason why we feel happiness in the TV is because the mind there was a process in our mind wanting to watch because of this wrong idea, this wrong feeling of, this wrong view of happiness is there. And then when the TV is on, the pleasure happens. So when you experience pleasure, I said this before to you, when you experience happiness, you have to think, what is this happiness? You should investigate. Investigate and ask yourself, how does this happen, what I'm experiencing right now? Where does it come from? And with the tools that I gave you so far, I will give you many more tools, but this is already enough. You should be able to come to a different conclusion in your mind about what you experience. Next time you watch TV, next time you read a newspaper, next time you see your children, next time you see your wife, next time you go out and have something to eat at the restaurant, think about how does this experience of happiness happen right now. So I'm not telling you to sit there and tell yourself, there's no happiness in this, there's no happiness in pizza, there's no happiness in any of these things. No, this is not the right way, because now you're just telling something that I told you, right? Because even you like to believe that, if you haven't understood, your mind will automatically always believe what it has believed so far. So for your whole life you have experienced happiness in the outside world. As long as you don't understand clearly why it's not what it seems to be, you will always feel that there's happiness in the outside world, and then you will want things. And when you want things, you have expectations, and now you will run around like people do today. You will run around trying to find happiness in the outside world, and you will not stop even when this life is over. And that's what we call samsara, right? It's the quest, it's the mission to fulfill the unfulfillable. So now then, I know that some of you have not visited all the sermons in the past, so I can't give you every bit of detail about the things I have explained before, but I'm sure as we go on, you will understand the missing pieces. Little by little you will understand what's going on in our minds and how do the problems happen that you experience in your lives and how to get rid of them. But I know one thing very clearly, which is, as I explained before, if you try to find solutions by changing the outside world to your problems, you will never achieve what you want. You will never achieve real success. Right? Most people only do that. Most people change the outside world, change their husband, change their job, change maybe the country that they live in. You can keep on doing that forever, but you will never go anywhere. In terms of this, you have failed. Just like you have failed until today. If you really ask yourself whether what you have done, I'm not saying you to accept what I say to you, I'm asking yourself. Ask yourself, have you found happiness so far? And has that been long lasting, or has it not just been for a day, for two, for a while, and then it was gone, and then again you had to keep looking for something else? And even today, there are problems that bother you. There are things that you have to deal with, maybe colleagues, maybe stress, maybe anger problems, and so on. But when you realize watching TV and not watching TV is just an experience, everything in this world is neutral, that's such a great relief, honestly. Everything in this world is neutral. Nothing ever in this world that has happened was bad. Can you believe that? I mean, you can believe it, but can you also... Now, believing is one thing, it's good, but when you internalize these principles, you will be able to realize it so completely. That means you will realize it to the extent that whatever happens, you will see the world like that. Honestly speaking, if somebody comes and he steals money from your purse, can you see it as an event? Can you see it as something that has happened? Something that has happened because of some causes, because of some reasons, because that's just an incident, or don't you take it personally? Yes, you will see it personally. You will feel, this is my bag, he has stolen my money, he shouldn't have done that, why did he do that? And you will feel this was something bad. So you will have a problem. Now you're vexed. Now you'll be vexed. Now you'll have to solve this problem. You have to go somewhere and tell the police he has stolen this money, and the money maybe you wanted to buy some present for your children, or maybe for yourself. You had some plans. These are the things. I know people personally, and they are very wealthy. They have a lot of money. But no matter how much money they have, when you talk with them, they tell you this story. They tell you about the economy, about how the economy is going, and how that everything is unclear about the future. Who knows what will happen in 1 year, what will happen in 2 years. The money that you have on your deposits, whether it's still going to be, whether wherever you have invested your money, whether it's still going to be worth as much as it is today. Maybe tomorrow, half of the money is gone, just like that. So they have these worries. So even for a person who has, let's say, $500,000 on his bank account, it's still hard. He's still so afraid. What will happen to my money? It's still so hard to give away a little bit to somebody, because all of this money, you can do something with it. All your hopes, all your dreams, everything you want to achieve in your life, this money gives you the feeling that I can do that. If next year I want to travel and go to another country, with this money I can do it. I don't have to suffer in this situation longer than I need to, because money will make things possible, right? So money buys me the escape route to change my life. If I don't like this job, I can change it. If I don't like this food anymore, I can change it. If I don't like this country, I can change it. So this gives you hope, a lot of hope. I consider a person who has to change the outside world to be happy again, or to be happy, not a successful man. If you have $500,000, but you need to spend money to come out of something that bothers you, I can't call you a successful man, because you still get bothered. You don't know how to fix the problem within you by applying the wisdom. If you don't know that, you will always struggle in life, because life can always throw so many things at you. Tomorrow the economy can be bad and you will suffer. You will lose half of your money. So, but now that I talk about this, I also want to say another thing. Whoever has a lot of money, or whoever is rich, maybe you call yourself fortunate in your life, and then that's good, because you have all reasons to feel fortunate and feel grateful for the good things that happen to you. And if somebody has $500,000, then he can call himself fortunate, because it is because of some merits, something good that he has done in the past. Now he was able to reap the rewards. So for this goodness, we can all rejoice, and we can all, and you can also be happy about that. The goodness is great, and being rich is also good. It's a fortune, but don't ever think that this is the solution to happiness. It buys you time, and it buys you comfort, but what's much more important is not what you have, but who you are, right? So, if you have a stingy mindset, you don't like to share things with others, or you feel it's hard to give something up, to let's say, give something from what you own to someone else, it's really difficult to be happy, right? If it's difficult for you to share something that you own with someone else, it's really difficult to be happy, because you're always consumed about whether it's going to be enough for yourself, what will happen with the future. So always this mindset is very focused on these points. At least so when I talk to this person who had this, who is in this situation, he is very fortunate. Once you realize happiness is not something you can get by money, now at least start giving something, little bit, giving a little bit to others, whether that is money, whether that's time, whether that is a smile, maybe something that you know, knowledge, help your friends in class, help the people around you, maybe help your neighbors, maybe help whoever. If you can at least do that for a little bit, make it a habit. It doesn't have to be something big. For example, there's always a limit to what we can give. For some people, it feels really difficult to give $10. If we talk about money, I don't know. For some people, although they have a lot, it feels really difficult to donate maybe, I don't know, 300 rupees. It's already a lot. I don't know. Just an example. So if that's a lot, why don't you start with 50? But you do it regularly. Every week or every month you give a little bit. Whether that is money or, as I said, maybe it's time. Maybe you can spend 5 more minutes teaching your, spending time with somebody, explaining homeworks, or in school, 5 minutes of our break time, we can help others when they want to do their homeworks. I mean, I never used to do these things when I was in school, but I should have done, honestly. These were really useful things. Just a few minutes. It helps a lot. Recently, my mother told me about a beggar in our city, and he knows him for many years, and she's asking me, we were discussing about the question, how can we help this beggar come out of his problem, because he's strongly addicted to drugs, strongly addicted for many years, right? So I don't know what we can do in this situation, because things are already really, really bad. When somebody has been used to this, it's really difficult to come out of this generally. So what I told her to do was tell this homeless person that from all the money that he gets by begging, he should at least give maybe 10 cents to another beggar, right? Because unless he starts giving, he will always be trapped in this cycle, right? If he has merits, and if they are such fortunate people like my mother, he will somehow survive. But his mentality will never change. If he's thinking like a beggar, he will stay a beggar, because that's what he will attract. So if ever we have this mentality of getting something from others, then nature will deny. Right? But if you can start having this mentality of giving something to another person, what will happen is now nature will start giving you. Right? So if this homeless person, if he wants to gain something, he should start giving, even if it's just a little bit. Then his life can change, little by little. Whether he likes to change or not doesn't matter. So we don't need him to tell him you should change. You don't need to tell him change your life. All you really need to tell him, give these 10 cents to another person, and that's it. Because whether he likes it or not, he will change. He has no control about that, right? Because it's all cause and effect. It's not whether you like to change or not, right? So in the same way, if you engage in merits, especially you have this most precious opportunity to gain huge amounts of merits by investing in the Sambuddhasasana, right? The Sambuddhasasana is a project, as I explained to you before, it's a project that has as its aim to heal the mind, any mind. Heal the minds, your mind, anyone's mind. Doesn't matter the religion, doesn't matter the nation, nothing matters. Only if there's a mind which has vexation, heal that mind. This is the ultimate solution to all problems. Because every other problem, every other solution people invent, everything you see in your news feed on Instagram, these are solutions how you can achieve release of vexation. I hope you can understand this. All these are very temporary solutions and actually inefficient solutions to the problem of vexation. The real solution cannot be found in the outside world by inventing AI, artificial intelligence, or even traveling to the Mars or something like that. So if you invest in the Sambuddhasasana, these merits will bring you a long way towards understanding the truth. And it will help you to make sense of the Dhamma. It will help you to free your own mind from vexation as well. Because this is not something you can do by yourself. You can't just sit down and say, vexation, go away. And this is not what happens. Vexation will go away if you provide the right causes, if you provide the right environment to your mind. Right? So, to do that, you need to earn merits as much as you can, help others, and especially by earning merits in terms of the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. With this understanding in your mind, Buddha means freeing the mind from vexation. Freedom from vexation is what Buddha actually means in another way. And then you will see your mind will cool down. All other things, all other goals you have in your life, whether it is to become a doctor, whether it is to become an engineer, whether it is to become a father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, these are not the way you can achieve happiness. And not to say that there's a problem with them, so these are not in any way problems, but if you expect happiness from these things, it won't happen. Happiness is something you have to find within yourself by understanding the Dhamma. Because pleasure, there's no pleasure in the outside world. Wherever you look, you will find nothing. It's just the release of vexation, what we have experienced. Right? So you are most lucky to have the chance to listen to these concepts and to make sense of them. These are not really difficult concepts. Little by little you will understand. If you really want, and if you really try to earn some merits and understand little by little, then you can most definitely understand the Dhamma more and more and free your mind from vexation. You have to want it. But honestly, for me, all my life, when I was a teenager, I used to play computer games because I thought happiness could come from that. I used to go to the university because I thought if I can win a Nobel Prize, maybe I'll be happy. So, if not for this teaching, I would have gone. I think I see only two choices in what my life would have been, or let's say three choices. One would have been, I become a scientist and I try to work 30 years until one day maybe I can become a Nobel Prize winner, and that day happiness will come to me. That was one of the dreams I had. Now I understand that even Nobel Prize winners are not happy people, right? Not even them. They still have lustful feelings, right? Do you think they go away when you win the Nobel Prize? Lustful feelings? No. So they will still haunt you, whether you like it or not. Anger, does it go away when you become Nobel Prize winner? No, anger will still happen. People will still annoy you, and you still have to die, and all sorts of other fears are there. So not even that. Because when you're not famous, your problem is you're not famous. And when you are famous, your problem will be that you're famous, because now you can no longer go anywhere without people asking you the same questions always again, right? When I was traveling around the world, before I traveled around the world, I thought, really nice, I can go around the world and people will ask me if I go anywhere. Maybe they will ask me, they will invite me home, then I can see their house and I can learn the culture and can eat the traditional meals, and I can experience every country very authentically. So that's what I thought. I said, oh man, it's great, I can go to Turkey, Iran, different countries, and I will meet people face to face. And then when I traveled, what happened was, every day somebody came and he wanted to spend time with me, up to the point that I said, no, I can't handle this anymore, it's too much. People annoy me. Not because they are bad, they see me only once. For them it's the best thing. Oh, there's a foreigner on a bicycle. Great, let's talk with him. So on that, for them it's only once. For me it's every day. So I got fed up with this. Right? So when you're famous, your biggest problem will be people always recognize you. You can't go anywhere without people seeing you, and you can't go. Because they will always ask you the same three questions. I mean, that is what happened to me as well as a traveler. They always ask three questions: where I was, where are you from, where are you going, and I can't remember the last one. So it's nice if people are interested in you for a while, but if they are always asking you the same things, you get upset about this as well. So, second dream I had was, maybe I would have traveled around the world for many more years, seeing every country in the world once, and then maybe twice, something like that. Which is also, I can't call this happiness, because actually I was just running away from myself somehow, and this could have been one way, or the other solution would have been, I have a family. But I don't think if you don't know how to be happy within, can you be a good family father or mother? How can you do that? Right? Without this Dhamma, you can't be a good father or mother, honestly. Not truly. You can be good to a certain extent, but you can't be really, really good. Right? That's why most of the times, whatever the things that we as people have not achieved in our lives, we wanted our children to achieve. And that's the biggest problem to our children, these expectations that we put on them. And they have to live with this pressure. It's really hard. it destroys the child's happiness. Right? Not that we can say it's your fault completely. I mean, ultimately, only thing you can do, you should do, is find happiness within you and then give it to your children as well. Give them the tools to come out of fixation. Otherwise, it's going to be really, how can we call it a happy family life? I don't see how that works. So even with the Dhamma, family life could be successful, but otherwise, now when I see all these rules I would have taken would have all lead to failure. I don't see any other solution. I wouldn't call it a successful life. But now the good thing is, any life can be successful with this understanding that happiness is not there. This pleasure I'm experiencing is only a release of vexation. Therefore, happiness is actually just understanding that and knowing that seeing is just seeing. Mind is just something to perceive, not to find happiness, not to find beauty. Right? So you wouldn't go looking for anything. You would just fulfill your duties to your society and try to make the most of your life to help others, to help your children, help your family, help society wherever you can. Because once you have achieved your own happiness, what is there for you to do? What goals do you still have to do? No, that part is gone. Why do you still need to travel around the world? For what? I had to travel around the world because I wanted to find happiness in doing that. I wanted to experience how it is to be in China. And I have experienced it. And I can tell you as well. But that didn't satisfy me. I wanted to find also how it is to experience in Thailand. But that also didn't satisfy me, so I went to another country. Right? So even seeing the whole world would not have been enough. But now I no longer need to do this. Now I can take my time to find out how I can explain people, help people, get rid of their problems in their lives and find real happiness. Now I have time to do that because now I no longer need to think about my own happiness because that part is done. Or taking it in another way, by doing one I do the other. So please, for your own sake, before it's too late, if you want to find happiness, start to find ways to give happiness to others, at least. If maybe the Dhamma is still not clear, it will happen as time progresses. Take time and spend the next few days and weeks how to empower others, how to give happiness to them, how to see the goodness in what you're doing and how you can give goodness. Because when you do that, that's the best step towards happiness for yourself. Don't waste your time watching TV, playing games, reading newspapers too much, or watching movies, useless movies. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do these things, but really ask yourself, is this precious time that I have, is that what I should do with the time? Or couldn't I do something more useful? To give happiness to someone else, somehow? Okay, so then we'll stop for today, and we will share our merits. So we all came here today with a sincere intention. The intention was to gain wisdom, improve the goodness in our mind, right? So that we can be good to ourselves more and so that we can be good to others more. And with the wisdom that we can find peace and happiness within, as well as we can share that with others. So you came here not for yourself alone. Sometimes you brought people with you. Sometimes you might be able, whatever you have learned here today, you will be able to share this with others as well. So you're not here just for yourself. So you came here for yourself and for others. So this is a very meritorious deed in itself, right? So you can be happy about yourself having done that. Spending time for your own internal cultivations, cultivating of your mind, gaining merits, and a lot of merits you can gain today. Just listening to the Dhamma itself is a very meritorious deed, right? And if you want, you can also, you're kindly invited. I know you're very busy and have many other things to do. That's perfectly fine. But if you want, you can also participate in our Buddha Puja and almsgiving. These are just chances for you to gain merits, actually. Otherwise, we wouldn't do these things. I mean, you don't have to do it for me. I can find my alms from the monastery. It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't matter what I eat. At the monastery we have enough. But this is actually good for people here, for all of you, to gain merits. Right? So, as you have come here with this mind, with this meritorious intention, we can share these merits that we have gained, not just to anyone who has helped us in this journey of samsara. Okay. Let us take a moment to transfer all the merits that we have acquired today by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, by listening to the Dhamma, by offering flowers and inviting the Swaminahansa to deliver the sermon, by contemplating on the Dhamma and how we can help others be a better person. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to all those bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasikas and upasikas, who since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and have passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters who have dedicated their life towards the noble path and have committed themselves towards the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them are the monks and nuns present in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also transfer these merits to Guru Swaminahansa as well as all the monks resident at the monastery as well as the Anagarika and Anagarika attached to the monastery. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, either by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. If any of them have been born in the warful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane, may they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to everyone who has made this event possible, who has contributed towards arranging this event. Everyone in the school who is involved and who has given their permission. Made to power these merits, they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, and fulfill the noble eightfold path and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha by providing the four requisites and by sharing their know-how and extending their well wishes. Let's also transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers and employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us and assisted us in this journey of samsara, and let's also transfer these manners to our teachers who have taught us, so that we can speak English and how to behave in society and how to be a good person. May through the power of these merits, they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to the devas and brahmanas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakradeva as well as all the numerous gods and deities, who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddhasasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our ancestors, all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the armed forces as well as the police forces who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in the war, be they friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we've acquired today. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who've been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that, may through the power and blessings of all the merits we've acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants of this blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits we've acquired today, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success become Arahanansi and Aratminansi in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnin nidetva dvesha ginnin midetva moha ginnin midetva Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva Raga gini niveva Vesha gini niveva Moha gini niveva Nivan sapalabeva Nivan sapalabeva Nivan sapalabeva Tunavandi Svisi Ananda Mahavanamini Siyala Loka Siyala Satya Nibbāna Parama Sukhi Sukhita Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.